Yeah, they're coming, yeah. I hope so. I just talked with Paul. Yeah. That would not be good. Yeah. But they, you call, I mean, they gave all, they said they're all coming.
Did you talk to him the other day?
You might be down here. You here.
Guess you can just have a discussion. Just wouldn't be a meeting at all. I don't think you would even call it a meeting. It's not a meeting, it's not a forum. I guess you can just. Have to wear 'em out.
They don't feed you anymore?
All right.
We emailed them multiple times.
Hands up like this. Hands up, don't shoot.
That's right.
People that liquor store, they're still nervous.
Oh, mercy.
They won't let us sit together anymore.
Yeah, put that hand out. Yeah. How are you, sir? You're looking good. We're gonna have to have some discussion on the Arby's, particularly that, the brick aspect of it.
I think so.
Huh?
I think so.
Rich? All right.
time.
All right, good afternoon. I'm Jim McLean, and I'm calling the April 19th, April 19th BAR meeting to order. It is 5:30 along those lines, and if you would have a roll call, please, Sarah Lynn.
Present.
Here?
I'm here.
Here. All right, thank you very much. We do have a quorum. I assume that the agenda's been posted as required by law. Okay. The agenda is in front of you. The only thing that I would like to suggest, if it's okay, on the action item is to reverse B and C, bring standard level up first, and then followed by the one for Arby's. I'd like there to be a little more discussion on Arby's than there is on standard level. So, any objections to that change?
No.
All right, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any other discussion? All right, the agenda is approved. Okay, if we would stand for the pledge, the flag is right directly behind us. Mr. Bailey, if you would, please, lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, sir.
I think all of you have the minutes from the meeting on October the 28th regarding Bethel Hanbury School. So if you would review that, please, and either give me a motion to approve or amend. Hard to believe it's been since October the 28th for me now.
I'd make a motion that we approve the minutes of October 28th as written.
Okay.
I second it.
All right, the motion made and seconded. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. All right, we're up now for the election of officers, and contrary to the way A reads, Jim McLean is opened up the nomination for to all. So, is there a nomination for chairman?
I nominate Jim McLean.
The nomination for me, and that's made and seconded. Any other nominations? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. All right, there's an election for vice chair for 2021.
I'd like to nominate Keith Bailey for vice chairman.
I second.
All right, Mr. Bailey has been nominated for vice chairman. There's a second on that. Any other nominations? Those in favor of Mr. Bailey for vice chair say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Next up is the election of a secretary, and I think Melissa Cowan is the one representing the town. We open now for additional nominations or for the nomination of Melissa.
I'd like to nominate Melissa Cowan.
I second it.
All right, Melissa Cowan has been nominated and seconded. Any other nominations? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Okay, coming forward, we have a few action items tonight. And say we'd like to bring up C, which is 2021-02-COA. I think Mr. Jamie Walters is representing Sandy Level. So if you would please come forward and with presentation.
Thank you.
And just briefly, if you would go ahead and bring up the website, Melissa, not Melissa, but Sarah Lynn. Just to give everybody a quick update on Sandy Level. Sandy Level is probably one of the most historic buildings in Blythewood. You can back up one slide if you would. This is the original picture that we have of the church. This goes back into the mid-1800s. Progress to the next one. This is a version that the church had stood until about 1955, and at which time the Sunday school rooms were added to the back side. One more. This tells you a little bit of the history of the church, and basically this is a photograph of the church as it stands today. Okay, Mr. Walters, we'd love to hear from you.
Yes, sir. My name is Jamie Walters. I'm an attorney here tonight representing Sandy Level Baptist Church. I'm also a member of the church where I have been for more than 10 years. I'm currently the chairman of the deacons and the chairman of the administrative council, which oversees projects such as this that the church undertakes. We're here this evening because over the last 5 or 6 years, we've had a lot of deterioration of the church building as you see it. Due to a hailstorm, we had a lot of damage to vinyl siding on the church. We've also had some substantial issues with the windows in the church, where we have some leaking in the windows and deterioration around that area, we suspect, once we start ripping things off. Unfortunately, your insurance only pays for so much. The vinyl siding has taken us years to get to the point to where we were actually able to do anything to try to repair it. So we began this process last year and got some quotes, which we've previously discussed with someone here with the board, for the replacement of the windows of the church. And you may hear us talk about the sanctuary. That's the front part. That's, if you think of a T, it's the line that goes up. The back part is the Sunday school building, which was added in the 50s. At the time that the building was added in the back in the 50s, we believe at that point all of the windows of the church were replaced. We actually know that must be the case because prior pictures of the church actually indicate a different design style of the side of the church, where there's actually a door and a different window towards the rear of that Sunday school building now is. So we know the windows are not original. They're metal spring-type windows, which would not have existed in 1856 when this church was built. As you all know, the cost of replacing the wooden windows that are there would be very substantial, and it would do nothing to preserve the historical significance of the church, because we'd be preserving something that is not historically accurate to the church to begin with. What we're here to do is to try to ask for a certificate of appropriateness for replacement of the vinyl siding and to replace all of the windows in the sanctuary and the Sunday school building with a vinyl replacement window. This is a sample of what we have here this evening. We've looked at other alternatives, and the cost difference is significant, to the point that requiring us to do something other than this will result in the project not going forward at all. These are not funds there to do it. There are not funds to preserve the wooden windows. There are not funds to buy new wooden windows. So failure to allow us to do this actually results in further deterioration of this building. As you heard Mr. McLean mention, I know that he and his family are very familiar with the church for a significant amount of time. The church that building dates to 1856. The church originally dates to 1770. It was at a different location at that point, and it goes all the way back to a king's grant from King George. So that's how historic the church is. And we recognize that. And we recognize it because in the 1930s, we were contacting the Works Progress Administration saying, hey, we've got some really important historic documents here that we need to preserve. We need to make these important and make sure that they're saved for future. While we recognize the role of the Historic Preservation Board, I can assure you that there is no one in this room who feels more strongly about the historical preservation of that building than the members who've attended thousands of services there. I can tell you that if the members thought that this was going to affect the way the church looked and functioned, they would not allow me to be here today. I mean, it is very much wanting to preserve that, and that's why we're here, to invest the money in this church to try to save it before it further deteriorates. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Just a couple of things. The living McLeans lived on the east side of the track. All the dead ones are on the other side, which is on the west side, which is at Sandy Level. But just a couple of points. Sandy Level is one of probably the 10 buildings in town that obviously is on, it's historical law, and it certainly is preserved, and we certainly understand and value what you're saying as well. A couple of points. Vinyl siding today would not ordinarily be approved. So if you came to us today to put vinyl siding on the church, it would not be an acceptable material. However, since this is a repair, since it's grandfathered in and is being repaired, I think it does meet the intent of the ordinance. And Ralph, I think you had some thoughts about the window and maybe in some of the framing around it. Some of the windows obviously are covered with aluminum siding, not aluminum, but aluminum flashing. I think there's some concern about what's going to happen once that's peeled back. And I don't know if you want to elaborate a little bit more on it.
I can ask some questions.
Sure.
Because of the jam conditions that exist currently, you have some very large aluminum coverings, which we don't know what's behind there. If you pull all of that down and you find that there are large wide wood jams around those windows, what is the intention? How will that be addressed along with the siding and the new windows? You know what I'm talking about?
I do. And my understanding is that these being a vinyl replacement window, we won't be ripping out everything in there. We know that the original windows, we believe, were actually a larger size. So it was downsized to a smaller window, which resulted in those larger places where the metal flashing is now. So that was already something that was done in the 50s, actually changing that size from a larger to a smaller window.
But you're going to replace the windows that we see currently. So
Correct.
you're still going to have this wide margin when you take off all the siding and that aluminum trim. My question is, if you find that you've got large wood trim under there, are you going to peel that off and go to a smaller trim around that window, or are you going to just metal flash over, in other words, cover those large pieces of trim as it currently is?
Our intention is that it'll look exactly the same as it does now.
Okay. The second thing that I'd ask for the board is you're bringing what is basically called a 4/1 window, meaning there's 4 panes over one. Your windows are quite tall. You have, I think, currently 6/6.
Believe it's 8 over.
8/8. Are you going back with the same mutton design as far as numbers of mutton bars?
I think some are 6 over and some are 8 over. We'll be going back the same way it is now. Yeah, they don't have.
Oh, I understand.
grid
I just
patterns.
want to make sure that you know, that's a single pane and a multi-pane.
And from the early pictures we've seen, the 8/8 pattern is actually original to the church, at least from the early 1900 pictures we've been able to locate.
And for the board's understanding, that particular mutton bar is called a grill between glass. That's not an exposed on the face of the glass mutton bar. Now, vinyl replacement windows can be built with grills between glass and an outboard plastic piece that actually expresses that mutton through the glass, although it's applied to the face of the glass. And I just want the board to understand the two differences there, so that they know what you're proposing is there's no expressed division bar on the outside of the window glass. That's a grill between glass, and what you currently have are express mutton bars. I just want the board to know you can actually get a vinyl with an SDL on the outside face of it. So I just wanted to inform them of that, and that, Mr. That's all I've got.
There was some discussions earlier about doing the Sunday school rooms as well. Is that part of your intent?
Yes, sir. When we
You're
talk
doing-
about the
not only
Sunday
doing the
school room,
sanctuary, but you're doing the Sunday school rooms.
well, it's all part of the same building now.
Right.
We refer to it separately, but yes, sir, it's all the same. There are 16 windows in the sanctuary and 48 in the Sunday school building.
I was wondering, are there any limitations, because it is a historical building, in terms of replacing those windows?
Not that it affect us. We are not on the National Registry, so there are no limitations upon us other than those imposed by the town and by this board.
Yeah, and the Sunday school rooms were built actually in the 50s, so there's a great deal of difference age-wise between the main sanctuary and the Sunday school rooms that sit directly behind the main sanctuary.
And also, just to address the windows and the grid pattern, these are actually consistent, I believe, with the same windows that are in Kelly Ballantyne's building, as well as the old Blythewood School, which are both in the same class historic registry we are. And I'd also note, just for the committee, that being as well we are a church, we are classified as a nonprofit, which I believe is specifically addressed under the 155.543J in regards to substantial hardship, that if the property is owned by a nonprofit and is not financially feasible financially or physically to achieve the charitable purposes of the organization while maintaining the property appropriately, hardship shall be granted. We have not had services in this building since March of last year. A great deal of that was COVID. It's just very difficult to space out in that building. Though since that time, it has deteriorated to the point to where at this point, we could not proceed with services in that building until repairs are made.
Just one point to go on what you said, the Valentine office and the school those were put in prior to them being put on the historical register. So if they came back today, they would have different requirements. So both of them.
Oh, so good.
John?
What? No, I don't have anything. You good? You good?
What's the basic difference in cost, you think, between the SBL windows with the huge difference?
I would say that they're probably 15% more expensive than that, the grills between glass. What you end up with is you end up with a grill between glass and it applied on the outside. So you've already bought the grills between glass, and then you get, it's actually attached to the face of that. It's probably 15 to 20% more.
If you did that on just the sanctuary part itself, would that be, what the burden, I'm not talking about the Sunday school room as well, you have a larger bank of windows, but on the main sanctuary?
I think the issue with that is then you create a look to where the building is not cohesive. You've got one style on the front and one style on the side where they're meeting at a right angle within a few feet of each other with the windows there. And we do know there's going to be at least a 12 to 14-week probably lead time at this point to even get windows. I'm not sure whether or not that would add any kind of additional time or not for those. We've actually had to update our quotes because the quote we had for this was of February last year, and yeah, I'm building a house right now. I can tell you whatever you thought you were going to pay in February last year has nothing to do with now.
Any other questions? Mr. Walters? All right. Is there a motion to grant a certificate of occupancy?
I make a motion to
COA.
accept the COA.
All right, motion's made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Motion made and seconded. Any other discussion? Any other comments? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good luck to you on your construction project. We understand what lead times mean, so thank you very much for coming, Mr. Walters.
And just
We mentioned early on the situation that, possibility of selling some of the current windows there, because they are historical, even going back into the 50s, they meet a strict definition of historical time frame, because typically 50 years is when you graduate into a historical classification, that you might consider offering that to members or members of the public to buy some of the windows just strictly for memorial purposes, things of that nature. Willing to contribute. Right, certainly. All right. Well, good luck to you on it as well. Yeah, thank you, sir. Okay, the next one has to do with 209 Blythewood Road. Mr. Michael Newman, if you would, please step forward. Thank you very much for coming, and this is better known, I think, is the Arby's project, which is, I think you've seen it in your packet. It's located just to the east side of Zaxby's.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, and thank you for coming.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, members of the Board of Architecture Review. My name is Michael Newman. I am with MDV Engineering. Excuse me for a second. Let me.
Yeah, take
my
your
glasses
mask
are
off.
fogging
You
up,
can
so
take
if you
it
don't
off.
mind, and if it's appropriate, I'll take that off.
Certainly.
I'm representing Brummett Restaurant Group, is who's going to be the owner and developer of the Arby's restaurant. They are looking at doing a 1,400 square foot drive-through and carry-out restaurant only with approximately 420 square feet of outdoor seating space, which is kind of shown towards the front, closest to Blythewood Road. And then there will also be the dumpster closure going around the rear, and then the 24 parking spaces that are shown, and then the appropriate landscaping around the perimeter and on the interior. And then there is a shared stormwater detention pond back at the back. This site is adjacent to the Zaxby's that was recently under construction and I believe opened towards the middle or end of last year. And so we've
Got
talked to
approval
them.
That's been approved by Richland County.
It has been submitted, and I've gotten some comments back that I'm addressing, but they are all comments that can be addressed, and conceptually, yes, sir, it has. And then also, I mean, to speak to that, the driveway that is shown on Blythewood Road has been submitted to SCDOT. It has not been approved yet. I've gotten comments back and sent it back into them, but again, there wasn't anything, the indication that it ultimately would not get approved. But no, sir, I do not have Richland County approval yet for the stormwater, nor SCDOT for the driveway yet. And then the last thing I was going to do is the dumpster enclosure. There is some elevations shown on there, and then the sign package is also in there. The base of the sign is proposed to match the same material as the building. And as far as the building goes, since that's not my area of expertise, I do have Don Elliott with Boxman, who's going to be the architect. And then also something that I guess isn't expressly on the plans, the style of construction, just for your own information. This will be a prefabricated restaurant that will be shipped down, built in Charlotte, constructed in Charlotte, and then shipped down and erected on the site.
This
That's
is the
kind of a
first
brief
time we've
overview
had a
of it.
modular facility, building on this.
Yes, sir.
They should present it to the town, so it's something that we need to, obviously consider in our proposal as well. There was a kind of a preliminary meeting that we had with Arby's, and Ralph, you had some concern and suggestions that based on the current proposal that we might want Steve to take a look at. So if you would just kind of walk us through that.
Certainly. We had been on the Zoom meetings and trying to dialogue and understand what we were looking at. I want to apologize because there's possibility that I didn't understand some things. And I have a few questions, and I know that the board has a sample panel over here that they can look at, and there's one in the back if they need to bring one up closer. Several things that I just wanted to make sure that the board looked at, because this is an unusual, it's an unusual request. The first thing that I wanted to bring to the board's attention is in our discussion with those that were on the Zoom meeting, we did address the bold red banner running around three sides of the building as something that the board would have to take a hard look at, because
I think we indicated that that would be a difficult decision for the board.
yes, so we just wanted to bring that up for the board. We had addressed that, talked about that, and the board needs to address that tonight as to whether that's something that they can go along with. The Arby sign being bright red, and that is their logo, I think on our phone call, we agreed that would certainly be appropriate because it's the flag of the building. So that's number one. Do you want me to just do these one at a time, or do you want me to hit all my concerns?
Well, let's just take them at one time, then we can board to discuss that. Does the board have any thoughts about the red banner at this point?
Well, we certainly addressed that in pre-meeting. What are your comments or feedback to us in terms of toning that red down a little bit?
Sure, and I apologize, Ralph, I appreciate you bringing that up. I guess I didn't speak to it specifically, but, as that meeting, after those meetings and after that feedback, it is toned down and is more of an earth tone color than the actual bright red of the Arby's. You can kind of slightly see it on there. I guess I don't have an actual color of this Arby's directly. Is those both of them?
Hi, I'm Don Elliott with Boxman Studios. I'm an architect. I work for the modular manufacturer of this structure. I was present at the pre-development meeting, and the comment regarding the red band was a little bright. We do have an alternate band, that red color. It's a little deeper red that we would propose to use in place. What we're trying to do is not get too far off the logo so it conflicts. So we do have an alternate red color for your consideration on this color board. It would be the one on top. It is limited to just that band, that accent band that runs around the building itself.
better.
That one on the screen looks better than that one, though.
If that's the third option, or the
brown,
third,
isn't it?
yes, that's, we had three options. We had, what you'll see, the large samples and the bright red are the preferred option, which is close to the Arby standards. We did take a look at providing a deeper red, which is the third option, and we had, there was a question about the white panels, and we had an alternate gray color that we could make them, although the panel that we ended up finding is an ivory, it's an off-white, and it has ribs that create some shadow lines that help kind of make it a little darker. So we thought that that satisfied the concerns of the board in terms of the coloration and the materials that were going to be on the facades.
Is the dark red up here just a fact of a color copier did not replicate that top red over there quite?
Yeah, unfortunately, every plotter and copier renders it slightly different, but that's why we brought the actual materials.
So that red that we're seeing up there is not actually available in your presentation, meaning that color, even though it's a bad copy, that color.
I said it was the third option. Can you just?
Yeah, that's the color that we're proposing is on this board.
In other words, what we're seeing up here is just a matter of a color, it's just a copier color.
You're correct. That's absolutely correct.
You turn that a little bit.
Width of,
The width of the band around it? What is the size of the width of the band?
I believe it's 24 inches. It may be 18. We're looking at, because we've scaled this down slightly. We're still working with what the scale. That's a prefabricated band that comes from a sign company. So we're working with them to get that the proper scale. But I believe in their traditional prototype that's taller, it would be 2 feet. We may be scaling that down a little bit.
what's the material?
It's metal, aluminum composite material, ACM. It would have a factory finish on it.
So all the Arby's are moving to this? Prefabs?
Just, well, right now, it's a prototype for a drive-through and walk-up only Arby's. There's no seating inside this facility, so this is kind of the first one that they're testing to see how this concept works as a modular structure rather than a site-built type approach.
Okay, so once again, Blythewood is in the new territory, huh? Okay.
You're
John,
seeing
you
a
have
lot
a
of
question?
the large quick-serve restaurants looking at this. We're working with several of them right now on this.
No, so that you understand, my purpose in bringing these to their attention is that red, those bold colors do not fit into their design criteria. So, and there has been other facilities where they had bold colors that were put aside in order to build. So I'm just doing my job to bring that to y'all's attention. It's, certainly, if you want to move to the next question,
Well,
we do want to deal with
is
that.
there any other option? Let me ask the question about it in terms of something more earth tone.
There's nothing that I could commit to here. We would have to go back to the owner, the Brummett Group, to see if there's any other considerations. These were the options that they would allow me to present.
We'll cycle back to it, but go ahead, go on to the next one.
Okay. Small item, and I'll just bring it up because it's on my list, is the large panels of glass. If you look next door at Zaxby's, they have grills between glass. They've actually given an appearance of some multi-grills within that framing system. I don't know if that's possible. Again, if you look at the ARB standards, it's supposed to have this character to it, and the division bars, whether we get SDLs or grills between glass, is just something that I wanted to bring to the board's attention. They may or may not have any issues at all with the size of the framing members and the fixed glass, but that was just one of the items on.
Well, we certainly would like for it to be uniform. That's for sure.
They are, the large
I mean,
glass is divided into, they're larger bands instead of the individual smaller, so it's the intent of replicating a divided window, but in a large format.
Let me move to number 3. And this is where I perhaps misunderstood something. The faux brick. So the board, if you give your attention to the 2 brick panels on the lower, the 2 panels on the bottom. I was under the impression, and again, my fault, I just didn't understand. I thought what was being presented was a thin brick on a panel with a mortared base in it, or a mortar in it. And what we have, so that the board understands, this is a siding that is it is a cement board siding. And a typical cement board siding would be hardy panel, things such as that. So this is an embossed, hardy type siding, cement board siding. You see the size of it. And so there is no actual brick there. This is a siding that appears to be brick. And what you have, both the brick siding as well as the sidings above, it comes in certain lengths. So at some point, you're abutting ends of siding together. So you'll see the siding is going to have, as it butts together, it's going to penetrate some of the whole bricks. So you'll have a whole brick that's broken where the 2 sidings butt together. There is no feature that sort of covers that when they come together, they come together. And I wanted to make sure that, as I mentioned in just some notes to the board, you've never been asked to approve a faux brick. Our standards require certain products on the exterior, and it does allow for siding, and the siding is not very descriptive other than it can't be vinyl siding. So this is not, I don't want anybody on the board to be misled that you have a brick building out there or you have a brick feature. And by the way, the feature is about 3 feet up into the ground. So it is a base. It's not, you have no brick walls, you have a brick base. But it will be siding, not brick. And I just wanted to make sure if you approve this, you're approving something that does not meet your ARB standards.
The danger of this is you technically come in and have an entire building with the siding on it instead of the brick itself. And, so you could come back with like a Hardee's, where the entire building is brick, and in fact it's brick and mortar.
What does the standard actually say?
It gives several products,
Cement
hard
board.
coat stucco, brick veneer, sidings, wood siding. We just don't,
Cement
this is a product that probably was not even in view back when the board developed the standards. So I'm not trying to say to the board that I don't like the look of this, but I want the board to understand this is not brick. And if you approve it, you may want to approve it under certain conditions. But maybe you could also answer, if you look at the detail, let me say right here, if you look backwards, there is a detail here that caps that brick. Could you describe what that is? Is that?
It's a trim piece.
It's just a trim.
Right, it's not what you would call a ledge shelf.
Is it,
It's a trim
is it
piece.
brick or is it just a solid piece of?
It's a piece of aluminum.
Okay.
What now, piece of aluminum?
So the
It's color
appearance,
matched.
the appearance is a sort of a wainscot of brick on the exterior around the base of the building. But I just wanted to make sure that the board understood that that is a siding, not brick veneer.
Masonry is not very modular friendly in terms
No.
of shipping it down the road, so.
Yes.
so alternate materials like this are pretty common in the modular industry.
Now, I want to ask you how this is built, and I'm going to step back up here again. So the siding that you see, the brown siding is this material up in here, and you see the size and the dimension of the siding panel. You have it looks like about a 6-inch
That's correct.
So is there anywhere, will you stack that sign in a butt joint fashion, or will you overlap and put it together where there is no vertical joint throughout the,
They'll be stacked because there's a trim piece that seals it up.
so the point being, now, this siding is the second panel?
That's correct.
Are you using that very thin dimension on these major walls? Or are you going with the dimension of the dark panel?
No, that's the actual dimension, is that white panel.
Okay, so the white panel, the thin black panel will be all through here. Now, the reason I ask is the lines don't appear that way. This appears as though dimensionally it replicates that. But that very thin definition is something that you need to be aware of. And what we're saying is that every 6 feet, there's a vertical line. So we're not doing it like.
Not overlapping.
We're not overlapping. So is there a trim piece?
Yes.
Because I have not seen it in Nietzsche High. Is this Nietzsche High siding?
Yes, sir.
I haven't seen the trim piece. What I've seen is a bunch of butt joints.
Yeah. You can try to minimize it with butt trim or butt joints. We would design it so that it had a regular interval and evenly spaced and things like that.
Sort of, it begins to have a pattern.
Right.
So again, just so the board understands, it'll have a pattern look, 6 feet, 6 feet, 6 feet, 6 feet. And that's just, I'm trying to help you understand what this siding is actually, how it's manufactured, how it's going to be what. Because you look at a small panel and you don't quite know what it's doing. Now, the only other issue that I had, and I want to bring this to the board, I completely overlooked this, and I apologize. I think our dialogue was great, I completely overlooked it. That is that coming from the interstate, you've got the service ladder on the interstate side. Could the service ladder be on the non-interstate side, or could the cooler be set back a little bit, and could we get it on the back side? That's a question possibly to you to say whether we have an option, and for the board to understand that, and I apologize, I missed the fact that in the elevation review, we had the service stair, the service ladder on the interstate side of the building. If you look at Larry Sharp's building where you've got Bojangles, they do have a service ladder on the side, but it's on the side away from the interstate, so you don't see it unless you're coming back the other direction.
We do want to avoid putting it on the drive-through side, which would be this other side, and then the cooler itself is a dimension that, they would have to use a smaller cooler, which I'm not sure that would meet their requirements. So that's why it's where it's located.
You said you can't put it on the drive-through side?
I prefer not to put it on the drive-through side, just to avoid any conflicts with cars coming around that, or somebody trying to access it during business hours.
It should be infrequent, though, I would say. Yeah, I mean,
that's a legitimate
frequency of
risk.
that would be.
I don't really think that's a risk.
Those,
I got a question.
those are my comments.
Now, on the panels themselves, the second one on here, are that standard for that side, or can they be larger? Because that looks kind of,
Which one are you referring to?
not the gray one, not the brown one, but the gray one.
That's how it comes from the manufacturer.
Not white, can you make it wider? Can you request it? be
They
wider?
have a larger one, but it's not available in that color. But I can check and see if there's some other options.
Let's take these one at a time. The red banner, the red bar around the top of the building. What's the possibility of making it less bold, thinner, maybe a more narrow band? I think
would
the
have
options
to-
are going to be either a more narrow band or something that's not quite so bold.
That's something I have to take up with the contractor. It is a prototype standard, and it's a prefabricated unit, so it would have to be a custom, and I would need to get approval for that.
for both the color and also for the size.
Yes, sir.
What's the, Paul, your thoughts?
Make them do it. I think we ought to get the dark color.
I would assume the color to change might be the easier of the two. Not that necessarily we're looking for easy solutions, but.
Yes, rather than making dyes and things like that to change the size.
Paul?
Jim, I'll be honest with you. And no offense to you fellas. Please. I'm glad to see Arby's wanting to come in, but the best way I know to say it, this isn't like this construction is done. We've been working a long time trying to get this place. What we got here, with other buildings around town. I'd love to have Arby's come in, but I'd like it to be on our road. There's a lot of us that went to the mat to get what we got. And I don't forget that, 'cause it wasn't pretty for a long time. But we got it, and we've been building on it, and I'd like to continue building on it. And I understand the concept. It's interesting that it's, first of all, a takeout and a drive-through. I didn't know that existed or about to exist. Is there any way the exterior can be done on site with typical materials, typical lengths, with real brick, with real concrete siding, hardy plank siding and whatnot? I understand the scale of the economy. I understand the money side of it.
At that point, then you're into a stick-built building. There's no advantage. We build the entire facility in our factory. And we have the control, we have weather control, we have quality control, and we can build it very quickly. And so if you're going to site build or put facades on site, then the modular idea really doesn't make a lot of sense.
This would be the only one in town, correct? It's not even in our guidelines.
But it sets a bad precedence also. Because the next one that
It's the only
comes
time
out,
we've
oh,
had
they
faced
did that,
with a
why can't we
modular
do
building.
it? And we go down that road again, Paul.
Been there.
You know,
I remember that road.
we got a digital sign, why can't we do it?
This is the only time we've been faced, obviously, with the modular building and the board that it done.
The modular construction shouldn't really impact, you won't be able to tell it's modular. I think what your concerns are more over the materials that you use.
Well, I think over time, those joints in that siding are gonna move, joints in that brick, I think are gonna move. I think it's gonna show up eventually. It's just the nature of materials. And there's something about, there's a lot of us that have been around buildings and in construction. When I walk by that brick, I'm gonna know. I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of other people that are gonna know that. That ain't what we would call brick. There's too many other structures around town to compare it to say, why doesn't it look like that? I don't wanna have to explain why it doesn't look like that, why it isn't real brick, or real party plank siding, or whatever concrete fiberboard siding. I just think, this is just me personally, the rest of y'all can speak for yourself, it's a stretch.
And Paul's
I
absolutely
still
right.
know that I can get there.
We got to be the honest brokers. And what is being requested here is that we go and not only give an exception, but now we start down a road that we don't necessarily like to go down, because then that starts a lot of angst within the town with other businesses. Why'd you let those guys do that? And I'm sure you understand the political atmosphere. Those are some questions we don't need to be addressing, because we're expected to address them here and make those decisions that we don't have to answer to later on, that we feel comfortable answering later on, put it that way.
Let me ask the board this question. I used to work for a modular home manufacturer years ago. One of my first jobs, I was an architect for a modular home manufacturer. If all of the sidings could be changed to a hardy plank siding and come on the project, and all that was done in the field was actually true face brick at the base, would that make a difference to how receptive you as a board would be to that? And I'm I'm not looking at our applicant yet because he might be throwing things at me in just a moment. But if the masonry was done on site, Paul, and the other products came out in place, and instead of using the 6-foot panels, we actually just, the whole building was done in hardy plank. Could it be shipped in hardy plank instead of these panel, the way that you're doing it?
Yes.
Because I think
Hardy-
maybe the biggest
Hardy is
angst,
approved.
yeah, the biggest angst is actually the masonry. And it was, and I told Jim this morning, I said, I missed that completely, or I would have brought that up earlier, and I'm.
Is thin brick permitted, or are you requiring full brick veneer?
Well, I think what I was suggesting is a real brick. Could a thin brick, a real masonry product that's grouted on site, whether it's a full brick veneer or it's a, Paul, you know what I'm talking about, thin brick. Would a true masonry product be more conducive if that was done on site? And all of the rest of it came, so the modular unit came fully assembled, set in place, and then they ran the brick skirting around the exterior. Would that be something that might be acceptable?
And I hear what you're saying, Ralph. Kind of like Mayor Bailey. This is the crack in the door. What comes next? There's a lot to come. What comes next? That's
Can you guys do what Ralph suggested? Build it on site, right, in terms of the
Do brick
foundation?
veneer on site?
We're a modular manufacturer. We don't build on site. That would require a licensed contractor state to do that.
Have any of these been erected anywhere nearby?
The Arby's, no.
The thing that gives me the biggest heartburn is the brick. Because I think that's where we're opening a door that might truly be hard to close. We've always required that it be obviously laid in on site. What happens, with the panel brick is I think you open up a door that's going to be difficult to close. The two things that give me, based on what we've done in the past, the biggest concern is the red band and the brick. And in terms of the boldness. That's two areas that we have not deviated in the past. And, hardy board is an approved siding. And the fact is hardy is used on Zaxby's, which is right there. I think they also have a brick foundation structure there as well. Does that, if we worked on those areas, what does the board feel about?
Well, first of all, can you all accommodate that?
I'd have to go back to the owner and see if that's the direction they want to go, but from a modular standpoint.
I guess the question is, can you do it? Not, do you need permission, but can you do it?
I can do that from a modular standpoint.
So all you need is permission. I understand.
Well, we need to define whether it's thin brick or whether it's full masonry.
I'm talking about laid on site.
Laid on site.
This is what we've done, this is what we've always done.
If you brought the modular out fully finished except for the wainscoting below, could you hire a local sub to set a small foundation and brick veneer it in the field?
Yes, we would have to have foundations regardless, so that could be built into the foundation.
See, that's an area we've never had to deviate from.
But you're talking full brick veneer, correct?
Brick veneer, that's correct. Full brick veneer.
And then I think the board needs to determine whether they want to go with the 6-foot sidings and vertical lines, or whether they want to use a hardy siding that actually is laid, multiple joints, but they're.
In the end, but
Yeah, just,
again, that's exactly what's on Zaxby's.
So Ralph, if the hardy plank is used, is that a butt joint? Is it a piece of trim between it that it butts?
yeah, but it's laid in individual pieces, and it's not stacked. This product is actually designed to be stacked vertically, and then you have a vertical joint, which you apparently just, this would just be like you do a house. In their modular plant,
Yeah, staggered.
they would just run the hardy panels links 10 foots, you know, and break the joints throughout the area. Mr. Bailey was asking about the dimension of that small siding, and I tend to agree that's a little bit, it seems like that would be much better if it was larger profile. If they can find the color product in a larger profile, maybe to match the wood trim, the wood siding, that might be similar. Arby provides, Nichihai provides multiple colored sidings that are not stacked. They're boards. They're basically individual boards.
But if it could be done in hardy plank, it would be hardy plank everywhere.
That would be my suggestion, is it all comes out as that. And we're just using hardy plank as a common term.
Okay, we're talking standard brick veneer wainscot and then hardy plank everywhere else, right?
Hardy siding,
Hardy siding.
lap siding, essentially. What we're talking
Because we want to alternate the butt joints.
about. If you look at any hardy siding building, you see where they're butt jointed, but they're staggered, they don't overlap.
Yeah, they don't line very, yeah.
Where did the windows land? Mullions and such. Can those windows, can they be redesigned with smaller sections of glass? And I'm not, can they be framed such that it's broken down a little bit further than what it is right now?
Yeah, that's just storefront. Storefront system, you can divide it up. This came from an initial meeting where the entry door was on the side, it was asked to move to the front, so we've already accommodated that. But these are the prototypical type window designs. They could be divided into smaller units.
What is the dumpster gate or pad or enclosure made with?
The dumpster enclosure itself would be, it's proposed to be a similar brick material on the building. So depending upon the outcome, basically the intent of it is to match that brick base that Ralph was talking about. As far as the gate itself, it is noted to be a chain link fence with the brown slats, vinyl slats that go into it to color match that brown, the brick.
It's the only thing that leaves is that banner.
Let's go back, let's also talk about this is strictly a drive-through, the number of parking places.
Yes, sir.
How many are in the site, on the site plan?
There are 24.
And I guess that's, from a town standpoint, that's,
Mr. Chair, there's a couple spaces short of what's required by minimum, but this use is different from what the ordinance really addresses, whereas primarily takeout and drive-through. And so there's this big discrepancy between full-on restaurant and the drive-through, and this gets pretty close. I mean, this gets too short of the full-on restaurant. So it's plenty of parking for, I think, for this use.
the thoughts there too is to try to eliminate some of the asphalt and, go with more landscaping and more grass than just asphalt itself. So you will be able to come in and park and go inside and order, or is it going to be strictly a drive-through?
No, sir, the functioning of it, the intent of it would be you can order and then, park and walk
Park
up.
and order.
There also is parking for, during the conceptual meetings, we talked about, the growing business and third-party delivery vendors, as far as those. And so there would be, additional parking and everything for those type of vendors for when you order it and then they have it, delivered to your home.
Number of employees you'll have?
I'm pretty sure it was 8, if I recall correctly. 8 to 10. 6 to 8. There was a letter that we had included in our information that basically, had 6 to 8, and then we were looking at 10 spaces allowing for the shift change, because they usually do have 2 shifts, and so, during that time of one employee arriving and another employee leaving, there is some overlap of, using parking spaces.
Yeah, one of the things we'd asked about in the last Zoom meeting was some outdoor dining, and I think you've included a spot here for some outdoor dining.
Correct.
I'm looking at an old one, so.
Yeah, there's 420 square feet of outdoor dining, and essentially the concept is basically it would be 3 picnic tables, enough room for 3 picnic tables to be out there.
Carolyn, can you bring up the one for the site plan?
And if you follow the sidewalk out from the front door, they're just to the left of that, adjacent to that drive-in at the top of the page. Yeah, that gray area. And then there's some additional green space, outside the shrubs where somebody had a pet or something like that where they were traveling. It was just a thought to, kind of give them a green area adjacent to there as well.
So that's green space on the drive-through, on the entrance and exit?
As you're entering the site and then take that right to go over to the parking field, that gray area to your right is the designated picnic and outdoor seating area that I was speaking of.
This proposed outdoor dining area.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you're going, yeah. That's right. Okay, we've got several items to talk about. One is the red banner. One has to do with the glass, which Paul, make sure that you're okay with that. We're talking about hardy siding itself, and this is the lap siding, and then also the late on-site brick and mortar as part of the foundation structure. Paul, you want to kind of make a motion? Put it all together? We're talking about leaving the banner maybe the same size, but certainly toning the color down.
Make a motion that we approve a conditional COA
Be a condition based on what we
based
approve.
on resubmittals on the red banner to a darker color. Resubmittal on foundation brick to be a full masonry and mortar brick installation. Also, all siding to be replaced with random length hardy plank. Also, the window framing be such that the sections are smaller, more in tune with the look around town.
You're talking about more just additional grids.
Additional
Smaller
grids,
panes.
mullions, and such, it's actually, I don't know that I've seen it where you could put framing over top of the glass like you would an exterior mullion, a button, as opposed to, if this framing decreases, the size of the glass going into the hole decreases, is that correct? Correct. Something much smaller than what is good, to imitate the grid of the button. And also, I think as far as that ladder, we decided that ladder could not move. Is that what the decision was?
No, they said they would
Said
rather.
it could be moved.
What I would do, I'd like to say that is
You go moving to what they call the east side.
to relocate the roof ladder to the opposite side of the building.
Yes, the east side.
Would it be easier in the rear of the building to do that? Or is there something else that's
Cooler in the way.
That's the
Cooler.
That would, if I can get a cooler that functions effectively for that, making it short enough, and losing the space inside the cooler, then that would probably be a preferred location. If I can make that.
Well, I think that would be an option that we would consider both of those.
Oh, that's a heck of a motion you made. Listen, you got all of that?
Your thoughts about what we're suggesting, just any feedback that you want to give prior to us moving forward with it? Any other thoughts?
Just a clarification, for the red band, are you asking for a darker red or something other than red?
I think we probably open, if there's something more earth tone, I think it would be preferable, but I think in lieu of that, certainly a darker red.
We want the darkest
would be
red you can come
considered.
up with. We want the darkest red. Okay.
Okay, we got four things that Paul's talked about. One is the red banner, leaving it the same size, coming back with a less intrusive, darker red, or in this case, if you want something that's more earth tone, I'm sure we would consider that. The glass mullions, we were talking about adjusting that on the face of the building. Paul, you want to be more, can you be specific about? what
Yes,
you're-
let me talk a little bit about that. Ralph and I just talked a second ago. What we could live with is to look at something further dividing the top row of glass,
Okay.
top framing that you've got, and leave what's below that as sized as is.
So the top 25%.
That would be on all
Like
sides.
imperial style?
Top 1/3 of the glass.
Okay,
Understood. You just take those top panels and divide it into four pieces. Right.
okay.
No, and then James Hardy siding is an approved product. Yeah, so if you'd come back with the Hardy board, or Hardy lap siding, it would be part of this also. I guess the same color we talked about too, essentially that you have there. And then the brick. And there's got to be approval process on the brick color. We're saying part of the requirement would be that the brick be laid on site, but you got to come back to us with a sample of the brick that you're using and so forth. And I guess we can have a call meeting for that, or we can end up just having, delegate that to two or three of us to approve, or whatever the board would approve that. Would it be board acceptable for Ralph and myself and Keith to approve it?
Sure.
Then that way it prevents you all from having to wait for the next meeting. So the three of us can approve the color of the brick and also maybe the color of the banner too.
Let me add one, or have one question. If in fact the hardy plank or cement fiber board siding is, if you're all able to do that, I'm assuming it would come with its own trim pieces.
Yes.
Same size, same system.
Yeah, they have, it's a pretty extensive line, they have with that. All right. Sherlyn, do you understand from a motion standpoint that we have it?
Okay, I'll second the motion
Yeah.
if we're complete.
Is it possible to?
Y'all not tape recording this? Where's the tape recorder at? Well, then.
Number one is the red banner, that the red banner is not approved, that they're to come back with an alternate color, something either is toned down or either an earth tone color. The faux brick itself is not approved, they'd come back with laid on-site brick as part of the foundation structure. What's the sides of the building will also be converted to hardy board or hardy plank, with the appropriate trim that comes with hardy, and they have a whole, store of those. And the top 25% of the glass will be changed with different dividers. And how would you describe it again, the dividers? How do you describe the top 25?
Say with division bars.
division bars on the top 25% of the class.
Mr. Chair,
Second the motion.
Mr. Chair, just clarification, was the latter part of that or no?
The latter, it is there. We agreed that they'll either move to the east side of the building, which is the 21 side, or either to the rear, opposite side from where it is. Opposite from it, and so. The east side again is the town hall side.
Do we need a second?
Need a second?
Okay, I'll second the motion.
All
Don't know
right.
what it is, but I'll second it.
Any other discussion?
Call the question?
Okay, those in favor say aye. Aye. Ayes have it. We thank you very much, and as Scotty has stated, you know, that the town has worked very hard to try to maintain something that's pleasant on the interstate. You know, we're blessed and cursed with interstate to a large degree because it does bring a lot of people in, but we just don't want to be an interstate normal stop, you know, for the town itself. So we're trying to make even what's there more homey, and certainly, but more to the liking of a community itself. So thank you. And again, if you come back to with us with these changes, we can approve those with a subcommittee without coming back to the normal.
Thank you. Appreciate your time
Thank you.
Thank you all.
and your cooperation and help.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much, too. Thank you for coming. I guess the last item on the agenda was open citizens' comments. Has anybody signed up? Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, sir.
Good evening, how are y'all? Thank you very much. Rich McHenrick, Blythewood resident and chairman of the Planning Commission. I wanted to come before y'all tonight and just remind you of the stakeholder survey that we have out and ask you to chalk it up where you can. Get as many people to go online, the town's website. There's a link on the town's website. It's been in the newspapers, and we'll continue to push that through the newspapers, and we'll be at the farmers market. Just every avenue we can get for people to fill the survey out. We have so far over 400 responses to the survey, which is
Yeah, I did 5 myself.
which is encouraging. Interesting. First of all, thank you all very much for what you do. I come in here and look at the gentleman sitting up there, and Blythewood has definitely been shaped and formed because of the leadership of you gentlemen, so I certainly appreciate it. The amazing thing is we're rewriting the comprehensive plan through the Planning Commission, which is a legislative requirement every 10 years. You have a 5-year review and a 10-year rewrite. Based on that, Sandy Level Baptist Church, at its founding, was a mere 16 comprehensive plans earlier. So when you do the math and you think a church has been around since 1856, you're not that long before we're way past everybody in this room. And there'll be another group talking about historic windows in a building that comprehensive plans affect. So it's extremely important what we're doing, and I hear from Sandy Level to Arby's the passion about making Blythewood what it was intended to be 20 years ago and on into the future. So I appreciate it, but if a historic building qualifies at the age of 50, it's amazing how comprehensive plans will shape and move Blythewood as we move forward. So please encourage those people within your groups, your hobbies, your activities, your churches, your civic organizations. Go and fill it out. It takes about 7 to 10 minutes. It's easy to do, and it is going to be a wealth of information. So just putting a plug in for the stakeholder survey.
Thank you very much, and thank you for what you all do as well. Like you said, I've taken the survey, and it's quite good, and I'm sure that you get a lot of good information coming from it about what the future of the town will look like. Thank you.
To approve the schedule?
I guess we do. That's an item that I overlooked that Mr. Scott is talking about, is approval of the meeting schedule for 2021. And I assume that's always on the third Monday of the month. Is that correct? Which is the same that it has been, and that's in your packet there. So is there a motion to approve the building, the meeting schedule as presented?
Second it?
Okay, those in favor say aye. Aye. Ayes have it. There's no change there with the
good.
prior.
You know when they're gonna be, that's great.
We are one member short. Any interest in applicants, or anybody applying from that open seat?
Not that I know of.
This is yours.
If you all know anybody, y'all might want to encourage them to apply to the town. Because like I say, we certainly do need the additional members. So, any other business?
Make a motion to adjourn?
All right, second? Second. Those in favor say aye. Ayes have it. Meeting
Mr.
adjourned.
Muscat,
Thank you all very much. Good meeting.
I appreciate what you do.
Thank you, Paul.
Strong argument for moving that. Something appeals to 6.
It's an interesting concept. I didn't know they were doing
Yeah.
that. Still want to be the first. Thank you. I don't know where you stop everything.
Find out.
Better than, town council meeting. All day on. Got that stuff, that backbiting they do. What's wrong with that? And they friends.
Panels are approved, but like I say,
No, that's a chicken coop going off there. That's a chicken farm.
Oh, they got a Kentucky Fried Chicken over there. Yes, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Why most people would think that already? You know, if they, I would love to figure out a way, we'll never do it. I would love to figure out a way to help the other side of the road set up. They don't want to. They want to. No, Tommy. Good seeing you. Good seeing you again. I'm doing fine. About you? Y'all got a meeting behind us? Next. I was complaining.
Melissa, do you need another copy? I think you left 2 on mine. No, here's the handout. Yeah, hey. Trying to remember who you are?
Yeah, although I didn't know where I was.
Oh, good, I'm Ray Fantone today.
Okay, yeah, congratulations. All right, Tom, Marlon, let's chop chop. Yep.
What you waiting on me?
Let's roll. All right,
Present.
all are present and accounted for. I'm gonna call the meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals to order. Roll call. Pat Littlejohn, present. Tom Utrasca,
Present.
Ray Fontone,
Present?
all right. Sam Fryer, he's absent, and Marlon Hines.
Present.
All right, perfect. Was the agenda posted, and was there proper notification? Okay, let the minutes reflect, there was proper notification and posting of the agenda. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Seconded.
Thank you. And Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You all received a copy of the minutes in your packet. I'm glad we're all still here after 2 years of not meeting. And so we have minutes from May 13th, 2019. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Seconded.
Awesome, thank you very much. Minutes are approved. Oh, there was a nomination and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right, so,
It's been a long time since you've done this. Okay, be out of
no,
practice.
I'm a little rusty. I'm a little rusty. So, we have, although I think we elected officers very shortly before our last meeting. We didn't meet, but we're elected for 1 year at a time, and so that year has expired so quickly. And so I want to open the floor for nomination and election of officers.
I nominate Pat Littlejohn as chairman.
Second.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, awesome. So we have a nomination for a vice chairman.
Nominate Tom.
Thank you.
Second.
Second, thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I'll let Tom Utrasca, vice chair. And last but not least, may I have a nomination for Melissa Cowan as secretary?
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right. Moving right along, action item, approval of the meeting agenda, meeting schedule for 2021. As you all know, this is our meeting schedule. We don't meet unless there is a matter that is to be brought before this body. And is there any comment, Carol?
This is just following the Board of Zoning Appeals bylaws that each year you elect the chairman and vice chairman and adopt the calendar. So moving forward, I believe we'll meet in December and do all these 3 items regardless of whether there's a case.
So we'll be back here in December 2021,
At
like it or
least,
not.
at least,
Okay?
at least.
All right. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I move we adopt the agenda.
Thank you. Is there a
Second.
second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Okay, and discussion item on continuing education. And is there something that you all would like done?
Yes. Well, I'm sure y'all are well aware that you need to, if you have not completed the 6-hour orientation training as a new board member, you absolutely need to be doing that immediately. And then the 3-hour training for 2020, also, if you've not completed that, that needs to be done. And it's not just a check in the box, as you may think. It's actually, I mean, critical because particularly y'all that follow, that y'all make a decision, it doesn't go to council for an appeal, it goes to circuit court. And so it will get thrown out of circuit court if the one doing the appeal of your decision says, well, they haven't met their continuing education, they're not really even qualified to make this decision, then it's critical that you complete this training. And to make it a little bit easier than in the past, and is this, they may change this, I don't know, but it will allow y'all to watch at home on these. I think we previously we sent you a link on YouTube where you would just send us an email that says, this is the topic that I watched, this is when it started and when it was completed. So it's documented that you did 3 hours of training. So that may continue, it may not, but it'd be good to take advantage of that while you can. So just want to stress the importance of that.
Mr. Williamson, I understood you to say 2020, but you meant 3 hours for 2021.
Well, you need 2021, but there were some board members who hadn't completed 2020, and that's why we're
you
trying.
need both.
That's why we're bringing this up now. And yeah, I'll be hitting you up for 2021 here shortly. So
If we go ahead and do it now, it'll count for 2020. I had 2020, so if I do it now, it'll count for 2021.
yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Is there?
Can't be the same videos though.
Well, maybe not. I hope not.
Are there any upcoming trainings that are already scheduled?
No, we can't now. I mean, you know, we can certainly schedule training and watch it as a group if you prefer. There is some if you wanted to go to a conference. I'm not aware right offhand what the schedule is of that, but if that's of interest to you, certainly, we can certainly find it.
It would be helpful if those would be like shared with us earlier in the year. 'Cause it seems like in some years past, everybody starts roping you in around October and November, and it starts getting harder and harder to get that in up under the
Sure.
wire. So
All right.
if it's known sooner.
Okay. I mean, you can certainly do these videos,
Okay,
so you don't need to wait on prompting for that.
okay. Where are those available? Are they available on the website?
I've sent them, I think Sarah Lynn has sent them previously in an email, and it's in this memo that was sent to you, which has the link. So I think, you know,
That is front and back. All right, thank you.
oh, sorry.
No, this is good. I apologize. I did not see this side. I was so excited about the schedule.
That's all I have, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair.
All right, perfect. Any other questions about continuing education? All right. We have on the agenda to open for citizen comments. Oh, Rich McKendrick.
Hey,
Hi,
how are you?
Rich. Thank you.
Rich McKenrick, I chair the Planning Commission here in Blythewood, and obviously a Blythewood resident, so I appreciate you giving me a few minutes. I wanted to address y'all tonight concerning the stakeholder survey, which you may have read about in the newspaper. You may have seen or heard about in and about town about what's going on. We are in the midst of trying to get all residents, certainly in the town of Blythewood, but the majority of 29016 to take this stakeholder survey, which is going to be key in the rewrite of the comprehensive plan. The legislature requires that we review it and rewrite. We review it every 5 years and rewrite it every 10. So we are in a rewrite year right now, which is quite an undertaking, but the survey is going to be very, very critical to getting that done. As of tonight, we have over 400 responses to the survey so far, but we can do better than that, I'm sure, knowing the number of people that live in 29016. So in your sphere of influence, if you could please talk it up, encourage people to do it. It only takes 10 minutes. There's a shortcut to it, SurveyMonkey on the town's website. There's QR codes that'll be reprinted in the newspapers. It's easy to get to. It takes about 10 minutes to do. So please encourage those people you know and have influence on to take it. I can answer questions if you have any, but it's pretty straightforward, pretty easy to do.
Any questions for Rich?
I have a couple. As always, never let it go unsaid. my wife actually took the survey that came to me, but then I noticed, I got a thing from the chamber saying take it, so I took it again, which is, I don't know whether you're supposed to just do it once per household or not. That's one of my questions. Is it limited to per individual or per
It is
household?
not. Number of adults in your household is who we would like to hear from, just because we know husband and wife don't have the exact same view on every issue. So we would like both views.
I couldn't believe that. Is there some way that y'all are, and I hate to use the term, segregating the people that live in town versus the 29016 area code? Because I didn't notice that on the survey.
There is, yes, sir. I believe it's the second question on the survey that asks you if you live in the town of Blythewood.
Okay.
And believe it or not, of the 440, Sterling-ish, I think 446 was the number coming in tonight. Over 50% of those respondent live in the town limits, which is fantastic. So we are working with the COG on the comprehensive plan rewrite, and Gregory is working with us, and he's been very helpful. They did the last one and are involved with this one. Very interesting, the metrics they use to get the incomes, all of the demographics, children per household, how far people travel, all kind of demographics. It is not just the town of Blythewood. It really is a metric that cuts across 29016. Certainly includes most of Blythewood. But when we saw those metrics, we knew that 29016 was the target. Obviously, we want as many people within the town limits to fill the survey out as possible. But just with the way Blythewood's growing, and actually most of the people taking the survey that live in the town of Blythewood work outside the town of Blythewood, obviously. So just a very dynamic, very fluid way of looking at data to get this comprehensive plan on target. So.
Any thought that we'll have the 2020 census numbers by the time all this is put together?
I don't think we will. We'll have some pretty good ideas, but I don't think we'll have those final numbers. They're going to be really, really close because of when the legislature requires the rewrite to be done. So thank you for your time, and please take the survey if you haven't taken it already.
I have one quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a target number that you all are aiming for, that if you got to this number, you would feel like this was truly representative?
It's a very good question, because we've never done a stakeholder survey like this before. And you know, because you're in service, you're in town government, if it's a topic somebody's concerned about, we can turn a lot of people out of a planning commission meeting. If it's a topic that somebody's passionate about here, you can fill a room. But to say we have 440 some responses, we would never get that many people at a public hearing. I don't care how hot the topic is. So when I was asked that question by the media, I wish I had a solid answer, but I would have never fathomed. We kicked off the survey officially on the 15th. So to have over 400 responses already is encouraging. However, we did mail this postcard to 10,051 addresses in 29016. So I'm certainly hoping that as the survey moves forward and people hear about it and see it.
So you're less than 5%, right?
We are. But when you look at the town of Blythewood, what's the residency of Blythewood? Yeah, so
You're at 10.
we're at 10%. And the majority of people filling the survey out live in Blythewood, so that's very encouraging.
I was just curious what a statistically, the number gets to that you feel like,
Yeah.
if you've gotten 10, 15, 20%, you've kind of gotten to what you feel is representative.
Sure, and my fear was we were going to put this effort in and then reference a survey that 20 people filled out.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm letting the 20 people that cared to fill the survey out really put their thumb on the scale of how this comprehensive plan comes off. Well, I do think we're past that. So we have a sizable number of people who have taken it, and now I think we have a very representative view of how to move forward.
Well, thank you for your charge to us, and we will try to move this from 440 with our sphere of influence and our network of votes, and try to help get out.
It'll be interesting to see if you get as many percentage-wise responses as you do percentage-wise of voters that vote in elections.
Yes, sir.
You probably get more.
You're correct.
Probably true.
Thank you.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, I don't believe we have anyone else signed up for a citizen comment. So can I have a motion for an adjournment?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Carol, welcome.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks, Rick.
You're elected.